With over £4 million in free bet giveaways and huge price boosts, kick off your season with Sky Bet. That's betting better.
Welcome to Match Day Live on Fox's Hub. After a draw here at King Power Stadium, Leicester City 1, Ipswich Town 1. A late equaliser again. I'm in the company of Ewan Roberts, Matty Elliott, and also he's still outside, he's still freezing. Jerry Taggart will also be having his say as well. Fellas, I mean, you can't help but be disappointed. It's almost carbon copy of the last game.
It's like Boxing Day night again, isn't it? I mean, remarkable. First half, by far, the better side. We expected a reaction in the second half from Kieran McKenna's men, and there was. You know, Wes Burns went close in the first couple of minutes. Great save from Hermansen from close range, and you know, once again, it's a late goal, a deflected shot which Hermansen does ever so well to save. Because as Jerry sort of said in commentary, that ball was moving. It takes a slight deflection. And the sad thing is, there's only Mento who's followed it in for his first goal for Ipswich. And on the whole of that second half, it's sort of hard to argue that they probably didn't deserve a point.
Without a doubt. And Matty, would you say the same? That it was hard to argue that they didn't deserve that point. They were turning the screw after the substitutions came on.
Yeah, I think because your freshest memory is the latter stages of the game, isn't it? Perhaps when you look overall, Leicester would contest that statement, that comment, really. And you know, look at the stats. They had a great amount of shots, greater possession, great shots on target, I believe, as well. But you know, not by a massive distance. So there's a case for both really there. But I think all said and done, it's hard to begrudge Ipswich, really, the way they stuck at it. They looked bordering on outclassed in the first half. Yeah, Leicester were pretty dominant, weren't they, without being exceptional and not having golden opportunities. But had some good situations, and you thought, well, if Leicester can make, you even said it half-time, more of the same, if they could produce that, then probably only one winner. But the substitutes made a big difference, tweaked it a bit, didn't they? And all of a sudden there was a bit more energy about it, so some pressure in and closing down Leicester. Leicester struggled to deal with it, quite frankly. You know, decision making wasn't what it could have been, and they almost invited a bit of trouble, like they did in the first game.
It was that press that made, you know, the difference in the match. Of course, they were trying to deal with that situation. Jerry, out there, how did it feel? You know, the atmosphere changing when the substitutes came on. The press was applied by Ipswich. You could see Leicester, they were vulnerable. There was a chance they could make mistakes. They held it together for the most part, but the tide had changed.
Yeah, I think overall, and I think if you look at the beginning of the second half, Ipswich come out with a purpose. I think at the beginning of the first half, both teams looked sharp. And normally we're used to seeing Leicester sort of ease the way into games, feel the opposition out, you know, and then up the tempo as the half goes on. But I thought at the beginning of the game, both teams are at it. At the beginning of the second half, I don't think Leicester were up to full speed. And I think Ipswich just carried on from where they left off. Leicester just struggled at times to get up to the pace. Yes, they controlled the game for parts of that second half. But as you've already alluded to, you know, well, the substitutes coming on in that second half, they just give Ipswich so much more energy in that forward line. And, you know, with both full-backs now pushing on, but Clark getting forward a lot more in the second half than he did in the first half, along with Davis. And if you actually look at the goal itself, the ball comes out to the left-hand side and Leif Davis is on it, and there's three Leicester City players, not one of them going put him under pressure. And he picks that first pass inside out, and then it goes from there. And again, there's nobody close enough. Yes, I think it's Broadhead who receives the ball from Davis, and then he scores it to Luongo, but no one gets out quick enough to put him under the pressure, and that's why you see it deflected into the keeper's hand. So you've got to give Ipswich credit for, as what Matty said, keep going, keep drilling away at Leicester's defence. And then in the end, you know, I think they actually deserved it. Yes, Leicester had one or two shots in that second half, but for the majority of it, they were sort of on the back foot.
Well, Ewan, I want to talk about Leicester City's response to those substitutions, because we didn't make any subs until the 80th minute and we brought on 2 attacking-minded players. Was that the right decision to make, to bring on 2 more players who are going to try and score the ball at that specific moment in time?
I think you tend not to make defensive changes. You're not going to take any of your back 4 unless they're injured or unless they're having an absolute howler, and that wasn't the case. You don't want to upset the defensive side, so maybe you needed to freshen things up. I was surprised that Dewsbury Hall went off, to be fair, but I mean, it's easy for us to sit in the stand. You know, Enzo's got a team around him and they can monitor they go into the red zone or whatever they call it with tired muscles, so maybe that was the case. I mean, we weathered the first 6-7 minutes of the second half, where they started well, as Tag said, and then we got into the game, created some chances. Haldaki made some good saves, one outstanding one from Hamza Chowdhury, but then you look at Sarmiento came on, Nathan Broadhead came on. Their directness and pace definitely caused Leicester problems.
Dealing with pressure, I guess that, when they were piling on the pressure, Matty, we were moving the ball quite well. Hermanson was put in some difficult situations at times, but he seemed comfortable in trying to find the right option, the right pass, and then, towards the end of that pressure that Ipswich were applying, he had to eventually kick it out of play.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Leicester's comfortability around passing the ball out the back when you're being pressed like that?
Yeah, like a lot of people, I'm sort of a little bit tense, a little bit apprehensive to the degree, a lot of teams do now. Ipswich as well at times. You think you're asking for trouble, and I think at times that Leicester are guilty of that. But it's a directive from the manager, and it's they want to play a certain way, regardless of the scenario, which I'm not totally convinced about myself. But what do I know? I think it's a bigger picture thing from Maresca. Get used to playing that way, regardless what time of the game it is, what pressure you're under or not, game in, game out, and it will just become second nature to them, which it is becoming. They don't look anxious when they're doing it. Sometimes I think they should feel a little bit more anxious than they come
you
across.
can tell that the crowd feel anxious.
The crowd are, the players aren't
but the
so much.
execution of the passes and sometimes maybe chopping, going the opposite direction, they look comfortable on the pitch.
Yeah, the majority of the time.
Yeah.
But, it only takes a few occasions for the pressure to mount a little bit as well. The opposition pick up on it a bit, so they're ready to go and squeeze more, and they're getting more reward out of it. And Leicester, in fairness, they did start going a bit longer, right towards the end. They were realising they were causing a few problems for themselves. Ipswich were good at the press, causing more and more pressure like that. So they were going long, and the ball was coming straight back. So whichever way Leicester tried, towards the end of the game, it wasn't really working for them. And that's where Ipswich deserve a lot of credit. They were on top the last 20, 25 minutes, really, weren't they? Having said that, you talk about the substitution. Yunus coming on, nearly won the game pretty much for Leicester, didn't he? When he intercepted that ball, was it the right option? I don't know. There was an option. I think it was Vardy on the left.
Yeah.
I was thinking, come on, that's the obvious ball. He's tried the little no-look pass, didn't get enough cut back on it for McAteer, but, small margins and all that. But overall, it's disappointing, but it's far from the end of the world,
it's a point, nonetheless. It's not a loss.
Exactly.
Feels like a loss, of course, but just a point. Jerry, I just want to talk to you very quickly about our omissions today. Of course, no Maresca on the touchline and no Fatau. What difference did that make to the game? I thought we performed particularly well, as you said, until the second half. How big a difference was it without them today?
Yeah, I think as far as Casey McAteer is concerned, I thought he put in a great shift. Now, obviously, if you're trying to compare him with Fatawu in full flow, then Fatawu edges it with his direct, pacey, close control. It didn't quite happen as far as Casey was concerned as an individual. But, that's not his fault. He hasn't seen a lot of game time lately. So there's probably something there to be said about, as an individual, going forward. There was probably 3 or 4 occasions tonight where Casey McAteer turned down 1v1 scenarios with Leif Davis, where if that's Fatawu, he's going straight at him. He's going straight for the juggler. And so in that scenario, it didn't quite happen for Casey United. But as far as his effort for the team, I mean, him and Dewsbury Hall were just, I mean, the amount of energy they have is just incredible. I mean, just really is incredible. Maresca, would he have done things slightly different? What did he have a line from the box?
Communication.
A line of communication. So was his instructions getting across? Yeah, but in saying that, you know, if you're in any doubt and you're looking towards the bench as a player, and you see your manager there reassuring you, then yeah, it does at times make a difference, depending on the situation that you find yourself in at that moment in time.
Well, I think it's time for us to really look forward then. You know, next up, King Power Stadium, as we know, we've got 3 home games on the bounce, including this one. It's FA Cup, so taking a break away from the Championship again, and we take on Birmingham, Ewan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game, you don't really want to play a team in the same division, if that makes sense, because you play them twice anyway. We went down to the New Den in the 3rd round, beat Millwall in an exciting game, and Millwall are decent at home. You know, Tony Mowbray's just taken over at Birmingham from, you know, Wayne Rooney, who had a bad time there. Let's be honest. He's had a decent start as Tony, but at the King Power there'll be changes, I would have thought. You know, especially with a game on Tuesday night when Swansea come to the King Power in the league. But yeah, it's you know, we played them a few weeks ago at St Andrews, and you know, we beat them quite comfortably. It's another game. You know, I would expect Leicester to be in the 5th round of the Cup.
What's the best outcome then, coming over these 2 games? Of course, going through and 3 points. Of course, that's the best outcome. But in terms of player rotation and making sure the squad's in the best possible position after those 2 games, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, although there's not as much scope or many options as there were to rotate that squad. As Maresca would like probably now, because the restrictions of injuries, suspensions, AFCON, and we mentioned about before. But having said that, I mean, a pretty strong outfit tonight, starting lineup, and not a bad bench either. it was, I suppose, it was a little bit surprising that there weren't changes until so late. But lots of experience on the bench. So if there are a number of changes, it won't be too detrimental, I don't think.
Yeah.
It'll be a tough game, though, against Birmingham, because they're on a little bit of a resurgence, dare I say, under Tony Mowbray there. And I thought they were half decent when we played them at St Andrews. Going forward, got some lively individuals, Dembele and Stansfield, others, a few other players there. And if Mowbray can sort of gel their attacking play and solidify them a little bit defensively, that was the big problem. Big gaps between midfield and defence. If he's worked not his magic, but worked his stuff on the team, that they're going to be a tough proposition, and they're full of confidence now. It's a bit of a new era for them. So, but interesting to see what the team is at the weekend. How much emphasis can be put on it? Well, normally, there's quite a few changes, to be fair.
Yeah, we spoke about Maresca and how he chooses his squad. If you're out injured and then somebody else is playing well in your position, you don't necessarily walk straight back into the squad if the team's working well. He's not really making those type of changes. But now in a performance like this in the second half, etc., do you think he will make those changes?
Well, it was a big game tonight. A lot of effort went into that. Obviously, there's not too much time between tonight and the weekend, but we're just referring to the bench. You got Callum Doyle there who came in, played. We played against Millwall, certainly, didn't he? And all of a sudden, he's being eased back in, isn't he? I think he'll become Cody, Vardy, Albright, and there's 4 already. Dennis Pratt. I mean, listen, there's half a dozen internationals for you, pretty much. So things aren't too shabby, are they?
No, Jerry. And then your final thoughts, please, on the next upcoming games.
Yeah, I think obviously, all being even, if Leicester had won this game tonight, then he could have afforded to pick whatever sort of team he wanted. But I'm not saying he's got, he's got one eye looking over his shoulder at Southampton and Ipswich. But there's a lot of food for thought for Enzo coming up to this game, especially on Saturday. Does he prioritise getting through to the 5th round of the Cup, or does he prioritise Tuesday night's game? Because, again, good opportunity to get 3 points on the board and a big at-home against Swansea. So, you know, a lot of food for thought, a lot of questions about it. But as Matty's already alluded to, you know, you've got a lot of players. Yes, we've lost some players, Cass, today. Indeed, in that midfield. And that, for me, is the most important area of the pitch. When you're playing that amount of games back to back to back, then you need to freshen up the midfield at times. And is that somewhere where Leicester's a little bit light at the minute? We'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. Transfer business, as we know, is very tight for Maresca at this moment in time. Are you agreeing with Jerry there? Is that the kind of freshen up you want to see? You want to see midfielders, players brought in?
Let's be honest. The priority is getting back to the Premier League. You know, cup runs are great. I totally understand that. You know, had a great time a few years ago when we got to Wembley and beat Chelsea. But this season, having suffered relegation, the main target is winning promotion. So to me, out of the 2 games, yeah, you want a good performance. You want maybe to give lads who haven't had much game time in recent weeks an opportunity. But the most important thing is getting 3 points on Tuesday night and getting back to winning ways.
The stronger team will be on Tuesday, won't it?
Yeah. Against a Swansea side, you know, Luke Williams has come in from Notts County. He's not had the best of starts. He's still looking for this first win in the league. They've conceded, I think, 5 goals in his 2 league games. You know, they will be there to be beaten, absolutely. So yeah, the priority is getting 3 points on and getting closer to automatic promotion, closer to winning the league on Tuesday night against Swansea.
Well, Maresca was also asked in his press conference about the 10-point gap. You know, it wasn't 10 points; it was 7 that we had, and now it's, you know, still 7, I believe, right? We've only gained a point, and Ipswich have gained a point too. Yeah, you know.
8 on Southampton.
8 on Southampton. Yeah. Is he going to be thinking about that at all? Is he still, you know, the same responses he gave in the press conference? You know, we've got to think game by game and just look at that.
Well, yeah, as we know ourselves and supporters will do, start playing tricks with your mind. You know, you just start scrambling your brain a little bit. You're like, oh, what could have been? I remember there was one stage, obviously we've spoken about it, probably too much. I think it was the Leeds game. If Leicester beat Leeds, it would have been 17 points clear of 3rd. Now that sounds insurmountable, doesn't it? But it didn't occur. It ended up 11 points, I think, on the night, because Leeds were 3rd, I think, at the time. So, yeah, there's all sorts of different
permutations.
Yeah, well, exactly, different ways it can go, isn't it? And, you know, tonight, you know, ifs and buts, we can't be too disappointed. It's kept Ipswich at bay.
Yeah, we're not letting them take points off.
Kept, you know, distance between there. Very healthy position. That squad that Leicester have got. The games remaining. Yeah, there's some tough games, of course there is, but there's a lot of games where Leicester, you know, you'd expect them to pick up maximum points over a period of time, and of course other teams are going to drop points. So, you know, 7, 8 points, whether you look at 2nd or 3rd, very healthy.
Well, that is it from us here at Match Day on Foxes Hub. Don't forget, on Saturday, the Foxes are in action as they take on Birmingham City in the FA Cup. We'll have extra time on Monday as well. And then, of course, we will be seeing your Leicester City take on Swansea in the EFL Championship. So make sure you join us live here on Match Day Live on Foxes Hub. My name's been Tony Hadgett alongside Ewan Roberts, Matty Elliott and Jerry Taggart. And, of course, our commentator was Chris Parrott today. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we look forward to welcoming you back next time.